What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And Bitcoin is pumping right now, so I wanted to drop this quick market update as we are approaching our previous all-time highs at 109.9K, and we are tapping into some very key levels of resistance. Is Bitcoin about to blast off into new all-time highs? This is what I want to cover in today's update. I'm going to go over the key levels that we must get above in order to see those new all-time highs. I want to talk about the resistance that we're tapping right now, and if we pull back, is there a possibility that we could just get a small pullback before continuing up, or is this going to be the local top before a much bigger correction? So buckle up, guys. It's going to be a saucy one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. So guys, here we are on the Bitcoin chart, and as you guys know, Bitcoin is starting to push to the upside here, which is really, really nice to see, especially since we made that all-time high yesterday. But again, we are tapping into some very key resistance right now. Now, as you know, last night on the live stream, guys, we had broken down out of this local volume profile after making those all-time highs at 109.9K, and we were trying to get back inside this range, but based off the way Market Cypher B looked with money flow coming out and some other bearish signals, I was specifically looking for a rejection from this range low to get a push into our next key level of support at about $100,800, where we had our value area high, as well as a 786 Fibonacci retracement sitting just below that. We were waiting for this on the live stream, and unfortunately, we didn't get it on the live, but as soon as I ended that stream, guys, we wound up coming down and, of course, tapping that target at $100,800 all the way down to the 786 at about 99,963. Now, I am in this long position here over on Femex, guys, up about $4,400, a little bit more than that, got about 373 locked in, up about $4,200 unrealized. Now, I am going to be taking profits up here, guys, because like I said, we are tapping some very key levels of resistance, but just to give you a little bit of context of what we were looking for yesterday in order to get a bounce, we were looking to come right into this zone before getting another bounce to the upside, and here we are getting that beautiful, beautiful bounce. So now let's go ahead and jump into the local price action, guys. I want to talk about the levels we're tapping. I'm going to go ahead and hide those higher time frame levels, and I want to pull up this local volume profile that we are now sitting within right now. We have this nice sideways price action, guys. We deviated above this high, got back into the range, went back down to the value area low, and then we went back to the POC and finally got that second tap on the value area low before getting a reclaim of that key level. And we know once you get back above that value area low, we're going to be looking for that next likely place for price to go to be that point of control of the range. And then once we get above that POC, we look to go to the value area high and potentially beyond, which is where we're sitting right now. But as you guys can see, we are sitting in a very, very key level of resistance, which is our golden pocket 786 zone when pulled from the all-time high here all the way down to our local low at about $100,000. Now, this is a very key level of resistance, guys, because this is an area where we could potentially put in a lower high and continue price back to the downside. But if we do, we have this beautiful context of where price might go next. So I'm going to cover those in just a minute. It's going to be within the context of this local volume profile. But if we can continue up here, even if we get a little pullback, I do want to take a look at the liquidation levels with you guys. You can see here at about 109.9K at that all-time high, we do have a nice little pocket of liquidity. Now, we could see some low time frame noise potentially based off that local key level of resistance. But guys, this liquidity could potentially act as a magnet for price, but we must get above a very, very key level of resistance. And that key level is very simply put going to be the 786 retracement levels at about 107,770. So if we're able, whether we get the cool off from here and then get another push back to the upside, we must get above this 786 in order to look for that all-time high liquidity to get taken. And then once we get up there, we will have to be careful of some sweeps of liquidity for potential dumps, very similar to what we saw happen on the previous all-time high at about $108,000. You can see we came up here to hit 109K, but essentially we were just sweeping the previous all-time high. So again, we do have to be careful around this key level of resistance, but if we can get above that 786 and get a push into that all-time high here, we do have that liquidity sitting, which not only will act as a magnet for price, but once we start cracking above that all-time high, we may be able to get a quick wick to the upside. And as long as we don't get a quick rejection for that liquidity sweep for a potential bigger dump to come in, we could potentially get pushed up here to some higher targets. Now, I'm going to go over those higher targets with you guys, but I just want you to get these levels on your chart. Local volume profile sitting with the value area low at about $101,000. Your POC is sitting at about $104,600, and then your value area high is sitting at $105,604. So we will be looking for those potential short confirmations inside this key resistance zone, guys, because as you know, when you deviate above that value area, it does give you an opportunity to get a pullback to your value area high, and then if we get stuck inside here, we may be able to come back deeper into this range. Now, it does Doesn't guarantee we have to come down to the value area low, but we may wind up at least coming to the POC. I'm going to reassess the situation once we get there because we do have some local fib levels right on that point of control, which we could wind up getting a bounce from. We could put the higher low in on that golden pocket to continue our overall uptrend to higher prices, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. I just want you guys to have these levels on your chart. We might reject here for a little bit because if we come on down to some lower time frames, you guys can see we do have this 15-minute bear div confirmed. We also have a potential 30-minute bear div incoming. However, when we take a look at some of the higher time frames, we do have an 8-hour green dot printing, and our 30-minute money flow is crossing over into the green. Now, this doesn't mean, again, that we can't get a little bit of a cool off here, but if that money flow stays in the green here on the 30-minute, we can potentially look at it as a lackluster correction to the downside to put a higher low in and then continue up to higher prices. But at the end of the day, guys, here, the key level to break above is 107,764 to come take that liquidity above the all-time high. Until then, we may get that lower time frame turbulence here. If we wind up breaking below this zone, like I said, you do have nice confluence on your POC golden pocket, but if we start losing this 786, that is kind of where I would be looking down to some lower targets, potentially looking at that value area low, sitting at about $101,000. And when it comes to the volume profiles, guys, it gives us such a clear idea of where price is likely to go. And the Mafia is making money whether price goes up or down, catching those longs and those short positions. But let's assume we are able to wiggle our way up here above this key level, guys, and come take that liquidity above the all-time high. I want to talk about some of those higher targets that we can look at, and they are simply going to be based off Fibonacci extension levels when pulled from our previous all-time high here to the low. This next upper target here, guys, I'm not guaranteeing that we could come directly up here. Like I said, low time frame turbulence is going to be expected here based off those confirmations that we were just looking at, but between about $113,000 and $116,000 is going to be a big level to look at if we are going to come up, break that 786, and take that liquidity from the all-time high. This is going to be a big zone of resistance to look at. Again, starting at about $113,000 even, and I'll be honest here, if we take a look at that 8-hour, guys, if we're able to do that, it might look somewhat clean because you can see if we do put that higher high in on our price action, we could get an 8-hour bearish divergence. This momentum wave does look like it may want to print a bear div, and if we are going to look for a bearish divergence to come in, it would call for a break of structure to the upside, potentially targeting those next Fibonacci extensions at about $113,000. So we'll see what happens here. I'm definitely going to be taking some profit here at this key level of resistance, and if we can come up and break that 786, beautiful. We have that liquidity sitting that we looked at on the liquidation map. We can come and take those liquidations. Now, again, we are going to have to be a bit careful here at that all-time high because we may just be able to sweep those highs and get a correction to the downside just like we did yesterday. We came up, we swept those highs, got the drop to the downside. So it's basically the same situation. If we come up above that 786, we'll look for a sweep of those highs, but hopefully we could just take those liquidations and get a pushback into these higher extension levels. And if we don't, we'll likely be in a short position here from the high, capitalizing on that next correction to the downside. But now you guys have those key levels below as well as above and that doorway that we need to break in order to see those all-time highs. So with all that being said, guys, that's all the time I got for today's video. Keep an eye on those key levels of support. We'll see if we can get those local confirmations to give us a small cool off before continuing to the upside. And if we do just continue down, you guys even have some of those lower levels. That $101,000 target of the value area low is going to be absolutely key to watch. So we'll see what happens. I'll check in with you guys on the live stream at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's all the time I got for today's video. If you're in profit, don't forget to take some money off the table. I'll see you in the next one. Frankie Candles
Here
out.
we go. At the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up. Yeah, you know, maxed out.